Today, we're going over a tier list of the best melee for M Plus in patch 9.2. Before we begin, I'd just like to say that about 97% of my viewers aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you like the content and you want to see more, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It really helps out and it really shows me a lot of support and gives me motivation to do these videos. Alright, so this is the second part of two videos where I'm going over how I think melee are stacking up in patch 9.2. This video is the M Plus one. The raid one's already up, so if you haven't checked that one out, go check it out. There'll be a link in the description. And this, again, I'm going to do my little thing I always do. This tier list shouldn't influence how you think of people. It shouldn't influence oh, I should never bring this spec to a key. This key's always bad. I should always have the meta comp. Bring people based on their ability. Generally, better players can do well in any class. Doesn't matter how good they are. But this kind of video is also here not to kind of think about what the top teams are going to play, but this is kind of just giving how the different specs are ranking to each other in a vacuum. That being said, we're going to get started, and we're going to go right in with Arms Warrior. So I think Arms Warrior is B, again. I think Arms loses a lot comparatively to Fury. I think it brings good burst every minute or so with Warbreaker and Bladestorm. But I think outside of that, its AoE damage is super low, especially considering that you basically only have Overpower, and you basically only have Sweeping Strikes. I think it'll be a decent enough M plus spec. Its tier set brings a little bit more burst. You're not going to have the tier set, by the way. Warbreaker 2-piece lasts 2 seconds longer, increases your damage dealt to those enemies by 5%. 4-piece Technician has a 3% increased chance to proc, while Colossus smashes up and causes your next Overpower to get 2 strength, 2% up to 20%. So I think you're not going to get a huge strength bonus from this tier set in AoE. I think it'll help you in burst. I don't think it'll be super amazing. I think that their survivability is pretty good with Spell Reflect. There's lots you can reflect. They have a slow. They have an AoE Fear for interrupts. They have a stun. So their utility is pretty good, but I think their damage is worse than Fury. I think their single target is worse. I think their AoE output is worse. They have good burst, so they're not the worst in the game. But I think B tier is fair for them. Moving on to Ass. Ass, I'm going to put it in C. The reason I'm not putting Ass in D because I don't think Ass at all is a great dungeon spec. I think Ass is pretty fun, but you basically need Crimson Tempest to be able to do it. Is that their anyways, I'm putting them in C because I think that their tier set actually gives them a decent enough ability to do AoE damage with your poisons and bleeds. So the 2-piece Shiv makes enemies within 15 yards take 40% increased damage from poisons and bleeds for 9 seconds. 4-piece doesn't super matter. Vendetta makes the target tick 100% faster poisons and bleeds. I think rogues are always going to be super useful in M+, which is why I'm kind of giving this guy a C. But I don't think they're going to be I don't think Ass's damage profile really lends itself very well to M+, because it's kind of a dot-based thing. You want all your stuff to tick off, but it doesn't really have enough time. It doesn't have the big burst AoE that other specs can bring. It's fairly unkillable. It brings misdirects. It brings stuns. So it's going to be baseline good. But I don't think it brings kind of just the craziness that a lot of other classes Fury Warrior or Sub Rogue can bring. So I'm going to give it a C. Next, we're going to do Enhancement Shaman. I'm going to give Enhancement Shaman a B right there. I think the changes to the cleave that Necrolord Legendary, as well as the ability to spread Flame Shock, really gives Enhancement Shaman the ability to do decent AoE now. So since Fire Nova opens up, you're not going to get the crazy single target burst you get in Raid. And the tier set, which is 3% chance to summon a wolf for every Maelstrom weapon you spend, and then whenever your wolves attack, you have a chance of resetting Storm Strike, is a good kind of rotational feedback loop, but you gain less value from it in AoE, just kind of baseline. I think their ability to do burst AoE is there with Fire Nova, but I think it won't be as it'll take some ramp to set up, and it is a little capped on what it can do, and it's not the most survivable. It doesn't bring the really good AoE utility in dungeons, so I think B is fair for it. Next is Feral. Rip to Feral. Feral was looking honestly pretty decent before they killed the tier set, but once they killed the tier set and they just brought it outside and shot in the back of the head, Feral has almost no ability to do very good AoE damage because it was all based on the tier set, and the tier set barely does anything now. Feral brings little to no utility. It has bark skin, so it's sort of survivable, but Feral is just in a really bad spot at this moment in time. Its burst is not good in AoE, and when it does burst, it doesn't do much. It's single target outclassed by other classes, So I think there's definitely some better options to take than Feral, and I think sadly Feral's in D, and I really hope Blizzard comes back and takes a look at Feral, and kind of tries to fix it a little bit. Next is Frost. Now Frost, I'm actually going to give an A tier. I think Frost bonuses, like Frost's tier set bonus, actually brings a lot in AoE. So Remorseless Winter grants 8% crit strike while active, and you're gonna have Remorseless Winter up a lot. And then Consuming Killing Machine fires Glacial Advance through your target. So this will be an AoE damaging ability. And I've seen some Frosted Knights do some crazy stuff on PTR with like really high AoE damage pull, like in pulls with Breath, with Obliterate, with Slappy Arms from Necrolord, which got a buff. They're pretty unkillable. They have a grip, which is great for getting mobs together. They have a ranged interrupt, which is really good. They, I don't know if they have a stun because I don't play Frost, but they have decent enough utility. They have AMZ, which can help either as a tank personal or in like high kind of AoE damaging environments. So I think overall Frost is going to be really good with damage. They're going to be really good survivability. And I think they're getting an A. Fury, I think they're a little bit better than Frost. I can just change that. Is also going to get an A. Fury is going to have really good pack-to-pack burst with Kyrian, which I believe is what you play. Night Phase is also decent, but Kyrian's going to be really good. Their tier set, which lets them build a kind of like rage loop. So the 2-piece is that Raging Blow has 15% increased damage and gains additional charge. And then 4-piece Raging Blow has a 20% chance to grant Recklessness for 4 seconds. I think this is going to bump it up so you use Raging Blow more in AoE. Giving you more Recklessness is always good because you do a lot more damage with that. And I believe you run... Ignore that. And with Spear as well as Spear Legendary, you're going to be doing a lot of damage every pack. So you have really good pack-to-pack burst. You're pretty survivable because you're Fury Warrior. Your mobility is fairly good, and you have good utility with stuns and interrupts. You have attack power buff. You have health buff. So I think Fury is going to be a really good option for M+. Next, Havoc. So I play Havoc, and I'll give us B. Now, Havoc's interesting in it's really good. It's like an A tier right now. And the reason it's dropping down to B is because other classes are getting more relative to it. Our tier set is pretty garbage. The 4-piece, so the 2-piece is like a decent enough damage bonus to Blade Dance. It's about like 5-6%. The 4-piece is either completely useless or super great depending on how much you get value good out of it. As it stands right now, you're running at about 3 minutes and 30 seconds meta, which isn't that strong of a tier set. Because the rage generation, it's like every 60 rage is every 60 fury is 1 second off of meta, which is not a good rate. So because of that, I'm going to give it a B. Venthyr or Night Fae are looking at the play right now. The jury's kind of still out in the tier crafting circles. Night Fae is probably going to be a little bit better overall because it brings good pack-to-pack burst with Khorane, and then you get good burst every minute and a half whenever you can gain value from the hunt. Venthyr isn't going to be an option with Draven as a soulbind because you get flat 5% agility and a 3% damage buff. So we'll see if that pans out. That might end up being better. Evade was doing testing on PTR and it was doing really well. But we'll see how that ends up being. I could see it kind of going either way, but we'll see on that. Next is Outlaw. Now Outlaw is an interesting one. So Outlaw's AoE is better than subs, but I think it's also worse than these things. Sorry, not snubs. Ass. So I'm going to put it in the top of C. You could argue it's the low end of B, but I think top of C is fair. Outlaw's main AoE damage comes from Blade Flurry, but the issue with Outlaw currently is that Blade Flurry is capped. As long as Blade Flurry is capped, you're probably not going to see Outlaw in like high keys, but it brings good consistent AoE damage. It's fairly unkillable as all rogues are. Their tier set just kind of brings more passive stuff with the ability for Pistol Shot to deal to fire an extra one whenever you main Gauche. And your Pistol Shot, every 6 you fire a Between the Eyes. Those will obviously cleave because of Blade Flurry. But I think that just them being capped and the prevalence of Sub-Rogue is going to lead them to being kind of a C-tier spec. Moretz, I'm going to give D. I think they're better than Feral, but I don't think they're going to be that great. I was playing with some Ret on PTR, and I'm not like I'm not a great Ret player. I'm not a big fan of Ret. It's not my like play style. But I think that their burst is going to be kind of fairly low overall. They're going to do really good within wings, but outside of wings, they're not going to do much. And it's going to lead kind of a low overall profile. Their utility is really good, but I think you're better off bringing that utility from another spec, such as like Prot, because I think Prot Paladin's going to be kind of crazy. And I just think that the damage profile is going to be like not super useful and better brought by other stuff. But if you like Ret Paladin, I think it's going to be fun to play. I enjoyed playing it. I just think the damage isn't quite going to be there. Sub is going to be our S tier melee spec. Every meta comp, every big key is going to run a sub rogue. The reason is a few reasons. So sub has really good funnel, which is actually quite important, especially when a lot of AoE is just kind of you blow up everything at once. But sub has the ability to take AoE and turn it into single target damage. So you kind of funnel one target down, such as the Shard of Halkias. You can funnel down the new ads from the M plus affix. You can funnel down bosses, and you kind of just try and bring them more in line health wise, and then they can swap over and do good AoE with Black Powder. I don't think sub's going to be a really easy pick up and play class, because a lot of the thinking is going to come down to, do I funnel now or do I AoE now? And that's going to be a big distinction between a good rogue player and a great rogue player. But I think that sub is unkillable. It brings amazing utility with misdirects, with stuns, with stops, with Shroud, that you're always going to see sub. And I think the prevalence of sub is honestly driving down just kind of the ability for the other two rogues to find a niche, because sub is just so crazy right now. But I think S is 100% deserved for sub. Survival. I love Survival. We're going to give it A. I think it's worse than Fury, but I think it's really good. Survival's ability to do kind of uncapped bomb damage every, honestly constantly, but then you have big burst every 40 seconds with Kyrian, brings a lot to the table in terms of just kind of like useful damage that you want in a key. The single target damage is all right. It's not as good as some other options, but it's there. And I think Survival is just kind of a really good option. I'm super excited personally to play it. I think I've wanted Survival to be good for so long. I think the one thing holding them back a little bit is obviously single target damage, but two, their survivability. I don't think it's going to be too big of a problem, because the way I envision meta keys to go, or high keys, is that you're going to have two classes that are really hard to kill, and then Survival, if it's brought. And Survival being brought means that the healer can kind of just focus on them, throw like a defensive CD on them, and they'll be okay. They also get Turtle's an immunity, and a DR when it can't be immune, so that's useful. And they also get kind of conduits that can help them survive, and they get a mastery, they get leech. So they have some survivability. And overall, I just think they're going to be an amazing option, and I'm super excited to kind of see them shred up some meters. Next is Unholy. Unholy I'm going to give D as well. I don't think Unholy's anything is going to translate really well to M+. I think this season packs are going to die fairly quickly, and when packs die super quickly, Unholy doesn't really have that time to ramp up and gain a lot of use out of its like cooldowns and all that stuff. Likewise, it having ramping time is pretty bad for just kind of the damage spec, the damage stuff that is required in M+. Their boss damage is fine, but their biggest thing is just going to be that they bring grippy arms and a grip, and I think other classes such as Frost will bring that better. Their tier set, which is every 5 strikes that burst wounds, apply Soul Reaper to your target, summons a ghoul, is super single target oriented and doesn't really scale well into AoE. And their 4 set, Harvest Time, minions deal 5% more damage, and Soul Reaper gives you increase that 25% whenever the execute part triggers. While you get value of this in AoE, a lot of the time the second effect won't trigger, because the mob your thing is on will just kind of die if you're sniping in a pack and there's just kind of this like Serve Hunter or a Fury Warrior just going all AoE and just killing everything, or there's just like a Frost Mage blasting. So I think that because of that, you're going to be limited in what you can do there, and I don't think you can get a lot of value out of Army. So I think D is a fair option for them. And last we have Windwalker Monk, kind of the king of 9.1. I'm going to put them in A. I think Windwalker, while they're not losing anything, and they got nerfed slightly from the Bone Whisper nerf, which it was a nerf, but not like a major nerf. I think that them being an A tier is fair. I think that they bring a very similar kind of big AoE burst, low single target as like a few other specs like Survival or Destro. So I think them being brought isn't as like 100% as it used to be. I think honestly that the 5th slot is up for debate in a lot of keys. Their tier set helps a little bit. 40% Fist of Fury damage is fine, but generally in most cases, a lot of your AoE is coming from Spinning Crane Kick. And the 4-piece, every 10 abilities, the next 3 deal 22% more. If you hit one of those and do a Spinning Crane Kick with the Chi-Ji proc, you're gonna feel like a god. So I think Windwalker has that good like place still with the large AoE damage, which is why I'm giving it A. but it's not a lock-in anymore, so I'm bumping it down from S tier. And I think that there's a chance you honestly see it replaced by a few specs in keys. Yeah, those are my thoughts on the melee balance for M+. I'm going to have my thoughts on the range DPS up over the next few days. So stick around for that. Comment down below if you agree with me. And subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Also like it if you feel like doing that. And thank you for watching.